I bought this at the Dollar Tree. Didn't know anything about this movie, and this turned out to be one of my favorite movies ever made. How did it do that? Um, it's kind of difficult to explain. The thing I'm going to tell you about this review is this was a blind buy. I didn't know anything about this movie, and it made the film a lot better because this film is amazing. I am going to talk about this film, but I will not give you any plot descriptions, kind of details about the film. So I'm going to speak very vague because this is a film that I think going in knowing nothing about it will make your experience better because this film is phenomenal. So this film is called The Midnight Special. It's got a really good cast, Adam Driver and a bunch of other great people within this film. Like I said, no plot. This is a sci-fi movie. This is a very 50s sci-fi Steven Spielberg inspired film. I love Steven Spielberg. AR, Artificial Intelligence, seems to be a very controversial film, but I still think aspects of that movie are incredible. There are some weaker elements within the film, but it's still an incredible movie in a lot of areas. Steven Spielberg's sci-fi movies, majority of them are fantastic, especially Minority Report, E.T. E.T., for some people, has now become the film that we kind of crap on now because it's over. Everybody loves E.T. But the reason why everybody loves E.T. is just because it's a fantastic movie. It's a really entertaining, fun film. It's considered one of the most watched films of all time. And let me grab it here, And it's a super influential movie. If you know Stranger Things, there are a lot of sequences directly from E.T. Some shot-for-shot sequences recreated, though they are their own thing. When I say shot-for-shot, I mean like they're identical and kind of the idea. Why is my camera not focusing? What the hell? What the hell? Hi, me here. Thank you. Focus. 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 I'm going to move my camera. Thank you. What was that about? But yeah, E.T. is super influential. And when I say shot for shot, I don't mean like literally shot for shot. They're identical. They're kind of identical in scenery and aspects of the scenes, but they're very different scenes from their E.T. counterparts. What's interesting about E.T., you can actually not get the original version of E.T. anymore because in the original cut of E.T., there were cops within the movie that hold guns, and especially where we're at in the world right now, that would be super offensive, even though it's like, come on. I get why people don't like it, because they're like children and they're aiming guns at the kids, but it's like, I don't know. I feel like I'd like kind of unrated version of E.T. on some Blu-ray and special edition. E.T.'s like a movie that lots of adults love, so I feel like it's okay to put that out there. It's not going to harm the film because the main one people will have seen will be the original theatrical version that doesn't have, or not theatrical, but the version on most Blu-rays, DVDs, VHS tapes, and shown on television. So I don't see what the harm is in saying that. But I just think that's interesting. So back to the Midnight Special. So it's influenced by all these things. So if you don't like 50s sci-fi, you will not like this movie. If you don't like the way 70s films are directed and made and kind of the auteur ideas of those films, and if you don't know what an auteur is, it is another word for a type of film that is completely influenced by its director, where most of the voice comes through the director. There is a theory out there called auteur theory, which is that a film is the voice of the film is the director. Everything is there because of the director of the film, which in some ways I believe, in some ways I don't. There are films that are better because of their producers within the films, not the actual directors, and then there are other films that are influenced by other creatives, and also films are collaborative medium, lots of people working together, lots of things. So it's not fully the director's vision that you are watching when you get a film, but when you watch a Stanley Kubrick movie like The Shining, 2001: A Space Odyssey, A Clockwork Orange, Barry Lyndon, Paths of Glory, things like that. I haven't seen all those movies. I'm just saying, like, when you watch those, I do need to watch those films at some point. But when you watch those types of films, same thing, Martin Scorsese movies, Steven Spielberg's earlier films, less so now. They're very auteur-driven. Same thing with a lot of earlier George Lucas movies, where a lot of by earlier I mean like American Graffiti and Star Wars, A New Hope, and the original cut of THX. Those films are very auteur-driven, and you can tell this is the director having majority influence within this film. Most of the ideas being expressed within this film, something the director wanted and put together. Stanley Kubrick, especially, was a director who's always known for changing his movies. Even just a few months before 2001: A Space Odyssey hit theaters, it had a completely different soundtrack, and he switched things around, all kinds of stuff. He was very known for changing his films. He was a very big perfectionist. Charlie Chaplin was also known as that. He's also, a lot of people know him as a director, but he's also, or not a director, an actor, but he's actually a filmmaker, and he is very much like Stanley Kubrick. And these two are geniuses for many reasons, but when you watch a film, when I say a film is very auteur-driven, that's what I'm talking about. A film that is mainly influenced by its director and very visionary. This film is not a mainstream audience film. This is a very indie type movie, because they don't make films like this. It's very 70s in its approach. It feels like a 70s type movie that is taking a ton of influence by 50s science fiction, things like Forbidden Planet, some of the weirder ones out there. Like, there's a tons of weird sci-fi from the 50s. 50s sci-fi is the best sci-fi. If I had to pick a favorite genre of film, I would say it's sci-fi. A lot of my favorite movies and franchises are sci-fi. Aliens, Star Wars, Star Trek. I also love Forbidden Planet, Iron Giant, all these different type sci-fi movies. I'm a big Trekkie and things like that, and I love Twilight Zone, and I know that's kind of a little bit more horror, but it's also very science fiction in a lot of senses. Same thing with Ultraman, things like that. And I love weird, kind of crazy out there type stuff like that. And so a film like this obviously was going to appeal to me, but it's also, there's a lot of symbolism. There's not a lot of explanation. And I find that very satisfying. I'm not one of those people who believes a film has to explain its world and its story to me for me to enjoy it. I want to be able to interpret it, because that's one of the strengths of filmmaking, is that you can interpret what the film is about. And a lot of scenes I am interpreting it's very strange ways, because it isn't always clear what's happening. It isn't always that. And it's a very slow pace of a movie, and it's very, very slow. And for some people, they're not going to like that. But as someone who loves films like Ad Astra, which most people who would watch, especially mainstream audiences, they'd watch that film and be bored out of the bloody mind. But that film is incredibly fascinating to me. I'm interpreting a lot of things. Of course, that film's not perfect, and I think my review, I like the film, but I think now if I were to review the movie, I would have a lot more to say and a lot more criticisms of it. I still think it's one of my favorite films of last year. I'd love to see what else that director does in the future, and I would like to see more Brad Pitt type stuff like that in the future, because it's super ambitious and it's super cinematic, and it's the type of film that I'd love to see on the big screen. And a film like this is also like that. I love this film, but it's very strange. It's very unique. It's very interesting. I'm okay with the slow burn, as long as it's not just okay, the pacing is just bad. No, it's there's a reason for it. This is just how the film is paced. This is how the film works. And this film is really presented well. For some people, they may not like the aspect of Steven Spielberg type movie. It is not a Spielberg film. It's a homage to him, and it's clearly inspired by him. In the same way, there are episodes of Batman animated series that are inspired by the comics, but they're still their own unique things. And they take the best elements of the comics and try to do their own spins with them, and that's really good. You don't have to be aware of the comics to understand it, and that's a good aspect of this film. And E.T. is one of my favorite films ever made. One of my least favorite directors in the industry is J.J. Abrams, because he's clearly a Spielberg fanboy who's influenced by his work. And I'm influenced by Steven Spielberg's work. He's a genius. He's always been known as a genius. He's made fantastic, well-made, incredibly well-directed movies with amazing cinematography and such other things. He's had a lot of shortcomings as of late, but he is still a fantastic, incredible director. And when you watch his films, there's just so much to take in, and it's just amazing works of art. But what I don't like about J.J. Abrams films like Super 8 and things like that, they're not they don't feel like homages to Spielberg. It's like someone watched a Spielberg film and went, yeah, I really like this guy. I want to do something similar to that. So he makes a film that's clearly inspired by Spielberg, but feels like more of, okay, I'm just imitating a style, not really finding my own vision and style, and it just doesn't work. And some people like Super 8 and things like that, and I think those films are cool, but what do they offer that E.T. doesn't? It's a style being imitated by a director who is imitating someone else's style and vision, and someone else's style and vision is their own vision and should always stay that way. And J.J. Abrams is one of the directors out there that I don't see as having his own unique vision of things to say, and so I don't like his kind of Steven Spielberg inspired type movies or him as a director at all for that reason. But Midnight Special is different because it is its own unique thing, and it's paying homage to these things. It isn't, hey, let's just imitate Spielberg because he's a genius. It's like, no, I want to make this unique piece of art, and I want to express these things in a certain way, but I also want to pay homage to someone who's made something fantastic and amazing. And as a huge Steven Spielberg fan and sci-fi fan, I love this film, and it's one of my favorite films I've ever watched. The cinematography, the score, the action here in this movie is incredible. I really love this film, and yeah, it's a really well done piece of filmmaking. It's very fantastic, interesting piece of art, and I think people should check out this film. It's a very artsy type of sci-fi film. If that does not sound like your thing, if you don't like slow burn, kind of pace slow type movies, lots of dialogue and not a lot happening. Of course, there's lots of sci-fi stuff happening, but it doesn't constantly happen. It's not big and bombastic as like some other sci-fi movies we make now. You think of Star Wars, things like that. Of course, it's not like that, but not every film needs to be like that, and that's exactly what this film offers. I found this for $1 at a 99-cent store. If you ever see this film in a store like that, which is like a Dollar Tree, so if you ever see kind of like this type of movie there, pick it up. $1 for this masterpiece. I'm just saying, this is why I go to those places, because then you find these rare gems. This is a film I never heard of, but then when I sat down and watched, I went, holy cow, I didn't just watch a film, I watched art. Art! I'm an art critic. Not that kind of snobby person. I'm just saying, it's a really well-made, incredible piece of filmmaking. I love it. Love it. I love art.